wide toe modification is part of the orthopedic kit that allows us to increase the width and the surface area of the toe. This modification can be, the effect of this modification can be increased by narrowing the branches behind the widened toe if we're trying to provide some ground penetrating changes. If in certain situations we want to just provide protection for an area of the sole underneath there, could be a post-surgery or a keratoma removal, or it could just be a bad abscess. But it's important that when we put this modification in, that you always take care of sole pressure here so we don't develop any sole pressure, especially on flat-soled, thin-soled horses that will flatten under load. This modification is really good for allowing the toe to not sink into the ground, which helps with suspensory ligament strains, which helps with superficial flexor tendon sprains. It also helps with some of the distal sesamoid ligament injuries that we might see on our sport horses. This modification is interesting because it's the only modification that the research has shown that even on soft ground, the toe maintains the same orientation as it would, or the foot maintains the same orientation as it would if it was on hard ground or soft ground. So the extra surface area here doesn't necessarily facilitate the heels to sink down, it just prevents the toe from sinking down, which we find is the normal way of standing on soft ground. So this modification has a variety of uses, from protection against superficial flexor tendon and suspensory ligament injuries, all the way through just basic protection of the ground forces on an area of the foot that might be tender. In this wide toe modification, we're going to start with a Warrior toe clip shoe. Usually we wouldn't use this modification on a side clip shoe that would be maybe set back under the foot because we're needing the surface area there. So usually we would do this modification on a toe clip shoe. So I'm going to weld this in. I'm going to be careful that I make sure that there's no sole pressure. So I will be forging on it and relieving the sole pressure with my hammer afterwards. And then I'm going to go ahead and narrow the branches and give the profile of these heel branches here that will help to penetrate the ground. And I'll do that with my angle grinder. You can also cut it out with your fuller if you want, which is just as good, if not a little bit more effect on it. And then you can also grind or safe the outside here as well. So if you look at the profile of these branches, the ground surface is actually narrower than the foot surface. So we'll show you how to do both of these, and that's the shoe that we'll end up with. So now that we've finished welding up the toe and we've profiled the branches, it's just important that before you finally fit the shoe and get ready to nail it, that you take care of the sole pressure in the front half of the shoe. So you can see now that we've got a lot of relief in the sole pressure here, so there's not going to be any chance of a flat-soled or thin-soled foot coming down and injuring itself on the shoe that we put on. We've got good surface area here to keep the toe from sinking into the ground. We've got a nice profile on either side that you can adjust and change for each situation. But here's your final wide toe modification.